everybody, you're with me on The Experience. It is a glorious day, Monday, beginning of our comic book week. And we wanted to make sure that you knew everything you needed to know about what to pick up at your local comic shop. Because I know there's a lot of stuff that comes out. It can be confusing. You might be like, oh, I heard about this book and I forgot it came out this week. We don't want you to miss any of those things because it's important for you to have them in your pull boxes. If you see anything or hear about anything today that you really want to make sure that you get, do call your local comic shop and make sure to get it on your pulls. Make sure that they know. Don't miss out on these things. Up first, we're going to have a wonderful discussion with Cullen Bunn, who is one of my very favorite writers in the industry, so I'm super excited. Everyone, welcome Cullen Bunn.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So thank you so much for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
It's kind of funny. I've gotten to the point, honestly, when I'm buying books for myself or picking up books for myself to read, that it doesn't matter anymore, the genre at all. If I see Cullen Bunn on the title page, I'm like, okay, well, I'll know I'll like it. So,
well, that's not. Thank you. I see people saying that. I just saw someone on Twitter say something similar just a little bit ago, and it always makes my my shriveled heart grow 3 sizes.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you have a long history in comic books, or at least your list of books that you have touched is really huge. So many things that people love from Marvel, like Venomverse and Uncanny X-Men, and oh my gosh, just so many, the good storylines that we like. X-Men Blue, Magneto, man.
Deadpool, tons of Deadpool for.
Oh, Deadpool! It's right, all the good Deadpool stuff. Oh yeah. Man, but you've also touched lots of other companies like Oni with Shadow Roads and
AWA.
What?
Right size, yeah, you're right.
AWA. Yeah. And my no lie, I on the daily poke Joe Pruitt and say, please tell me they're announcing Dark Arc. I want that to be on the screen so badly in my heart.
Keep poking him about it. It'll eventually he'll listen.
Mm-hmm. And then Dark Horse, Harrow County. Recently, Empty Man we get to see on the screen.
Yeah.
So your stuff is starting to pop up in development. What is it like to see something that you've written become something that's on the screen? Is it all like what you imagined, or they just go like they only slightly resemble what you had in mind?
Well, it's a little bizarre. It's very surreal, and it never feels real because most of these things have been in development for years, and I'm always, in meetings, taking calls, pitching concepts, talking to producers, and we've gotten close on several things, have almost crossed that finish line, but it doesn't feel real when anything really does cross that finish line, and it's bizarre. And yeah, sometimes like Empty Man, for instance, I feel like the movie picked pieces out of the comic and put it in the movie, but it's really its own kind of story. I kind of feel like the Empty Man movie is just another story that's taking place in the comic book universe. It's its own little corner of that comic book universe, but it's gratifying and it's exciting and it's weird, especially when there are lines of dialogue that I wrote in the movie, and that's kind of it's weird to see them spoken for the first time. Yeah.
Did you get to do any kind of engagement with talking about how it was going to look on the screen, or is it just that you didn't get to touch it at all?
Every project's different. Some you're very involved in, some you're less involved in. I was involved with Empty Man pretty much. I saw like numerous different cuts of the movie, and I saw the script when it first got turned in, and but that was definitely one that it was in the hands of the producers and the director. They kept me very involved. They didn't, but they definitely didn't have to. They didn't have to they didn't have to contact me at all about any of it, but they did, and I was glad that they did. Newer projects, I'm a little more involved now than Empty Man was one of the first things I ever sold. As far as it's definitely the first thing that's crossed that finish line.
Are there any other things you can even mention? I know there's so much that people can't say, and I totally understand that. I'm not trying to milk you for information, but if there's anything to type, go for it.
No, it's all right. But no, unfortunately, I mean, there's a couple that have been announced. The Unsound, which is another a Boom miniseries, that's in development for Netflix right now. So that's the one that is, that I think is I'm trying to think what's been announced. I think the Unsound's the only thing that's really been announced in development. But there's those wheels are always turning. So by
the way, I can't use paper plates anymore because I've been psychologically damaged by Xerxes.
Yeah, those paper plates were. Who knew that paper plates could be so creepy?
I gotta know, how did you come up with that? You had a thought process, obviously. What, did you just see one day and you're like, let's use this?
You know what? That's a great question. The answer, I don't know. I don't know where the paper plate thing came from. I really don't. I think I was thinking about crafts in that kind of setting. People doing crafts to channel their thoughts and things like that. And I just thought, well, wouldn't a paper plate be, an interesting mask? And especially if the mask moves, but the eyes don't, things like that. So I don't know exactly where that came from, other than I probably just thought this will be kind of creepy. and it was.
If you guys have not picked up the Unsound, you absolutely should. It's Boom Studios, so it's easy to find. And the short pitch for it is, a nurse, I guess, shows up for her first day at work at this insane asylum, and she should have known better. As soon as she walked up to the front desk that was unattended, and what was laying there was a syringe and a razor blade. No one around.
Yeah, it's she basically it's basically her first day at the job, and she's getting a job at what is essentially a haunted asylum, which is that's the perfect place for a new job, right?
Yeah, and it gets more crazy from there. One of the people that is in the asylum is named Xerxes, and that's what we're talking about with a paper plate. He has a paper plate that he's drawn stuff on, and he puts that over his face. So in it, he's really so scary.
It's a weird book too. I mean, it's a story that it goes in directions I don't even know that I knew where it was going when I started writing it, and it really goes into some crazy places, in the very best way, I think. I mean, I'm really happy with the way that book turned out, and the art by Jack T. Cole is amazing. He does such a great job of conveying this sense of weirdness and creepiness and surreality of it all.
Honestly, when I read an issue, I'd have to go and read something happy, because otherwise I wouldn't sleep well. It did its job.
Well, then I succeeded. I'm happy with that. I'll take that as a compliment.
So you've had a couple arcs for Dark Arc. Is there a third arc that we might see?
I hope. Dark Arc is, we had 15 issues in the original series. And then we did, After the Flood, which ran 5 issues. I would love to have another longer run on that story, because I think there's some interesting places I want to take it. And I think it'll happen. It's just a matter of when. When will that happen? Dark Arc's one that it's one of my favorites, and it's one that kind of haunts me because I haven't finished that story the way I want to. So fingers crossed. Keep bothering Joe Pruitt. He'll cave eventually.
Trust me. He knows if I'm calling what thing I'm going to mention other things that I need, but then I always poke him about that.
Good.
You may not know this, but I own all of Aftershock's stock of Dark Arc.
I actually did. I did know that.
I have it in my back room, and just like Chuck Rolanski does Rosansky does when he walks by all of his books in his giant warehouse at Mile High. I do that with your books. I just rub a
with the
cloth
dark
across the top.
arts. Nice.
All right, I did want to talk about Beyond Mortal because it's a project that you're working on. I'm really excited for. So you're doing it interestingly as a Kickstarter. So what's the decision-making process for that?
Well, Kickstarter is one of those things that I've done a few Kickstarters now, and I always feel like I haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm still trying to figure out what makes a great Kickstarter and what makes it work. With Beyond Mortal, Danny Lucker, who is the artist, and I are really introducing a completely new superhero universe. We're introducing dozens and dozens of superheroes and supervillains, and we have big plans for it. We'd like to see this become a big shared universe. I mean, we have numerous other stories we want to tell in that world with these characters. We see the potential of bringing in other creators to tell some of these stories, but we really wanted to keep control of it at this early stage and to really have complete control. Danny was very determined that the first issue we put out was going to be over 60 pages. And that's a tough one sometimes for a publisher, to bite down on. So we just said, well, let's try it with Kickstarter. I'm not saying it will always be a project. I mean, we have the first arc is 3 issues, 3 oversized issues, and those will probably be Kickstarter. But as I've done in the past with some of my other stuff, some of it after those issues come out, we may move it to a publisher and bring it out through in trade, have them collect it, and maybe we'll move it. We'll see how it does. I mean, the Kickstarter is doing very well right now. And if you haven't checked it out, I think there's 16 days left in it. And it's, like I said, it's a superhero world. But then these elder gods are coming in and intruding into the world, sort of like if the Justice League were to fight Cthulhu, and that's it's a superhero book, but it's also heavy, lots of horror influences in it. So, we'll see how it goes. It's I would like to keep a few Kickstarters going just because I can try different kinds of projects that maybe don't in the early stages.
Does it feel like it should be in the brotherhood of other kind of more violent superhero books, kind of like The Boys, and we see with Jupiter's Legacy and those kinds?
So I could, it's definitely it's an adult, it's geared towards adult readership, but it's not what I don't think it's in the same subgenre as The Boys. It doesn't. It's definitely more because we wanted the superhero world to feel very much like the Bronze Age and the Golden Age superhero world. So we're not necessarily deconstructing the superheroes and trying to break them down into something else and turn them into more violence. But the horrors that are kind of intruding on them change the course of the story. So there's some violence in it, but it's not The Boys. it's definitely more, if you can imagine, like an Avengers comic or a Justice League comic, and then these horror elements start bleeding into it in a big way.
That sounds awesome. So you said that we have got plenty of time left for people to join into that Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's still got 16 days to go, and then and Danny's working on issue 2 right now, so we're forging ahead on it.
If you ever want to talk to someone about master classes for Kickstarter, Dirk Manning, man.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know he has done some. I mean, I don't know how many he's done even at this point, but I know he knows what he's doing. So
I think you should write a book about it, honestly.
Yeah, it's just such a, even though the platform's been around for many years now, or it still seems very new, and getting it right and figuring it out is still I haven't done it yet. So eventually I'll figure it all out. Well,
it also changes a little bit, right? I'm sure they put, new functionality on there.
Yeah, they add new features, and but it's nice to some degree. I like being that involved in every stage of it, because when I'm running one of these Kickstarters, I'm everything from the design. I'm managing getting everything in, making sure all the pieces go where they're get where they're supposed to be, and getting it fulfilled and everything else. So it's nice to see all those. Sometimes when I'm just writing a comic for another publisher, you don't necessarily see all those moving pieces as readily. So it's nice to see those and remind myself every now and again how much is really going into one of these.
Yeah, Kickstarter is one of those interesting things that for a while as a retailer, I didn't know how to think about it because it felt like circumventing us. But then I realized from watching Kickstarters happen that they really appeal to the super fan. So someone that already loves that creator can say, I was there and helped support this so that it actually, was created. If you look at the total numbers of people that are supporting those, they are those core fans. And then it gets created, and then it is actually in the world. So it can be out there for people that might be a more casual reader that, especially when you have retailer levels for us to be able to buy, we can hand those off.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably, I was just talking to another creator a few days ago, and that's probably the thing that I really feel like, I don't want retailers to get lost in the shuffle when it comes to Kickstarters, and I don't know that we've really wrapped our head around it. There's not an easy, there's not functionality for it, really. That's basically the creators have to build something in and try to work with retailers on a, more one-on-one basis, and that's fine. But it would be nice if there was a little bit easier way, some way to make sure retailers are really supported in there. And what I do, because we will have numerous stretch goals. So there'll be stickers and booklets and all these things that can be added into it. So when a retailer supports at one of the retailer levels, we make sure they get all that stuff too, so that they, it's not just getting the book. Their customers can get everything if they don't. Invariably, at the end of the Kickstarter, we get dozens of emails from people saying, "Hey, I missed out on this. Where can I get it?" And it's nice if we can say, "Hey, go get it from your retailer."
Perfect. I've got some lag problems on my end, and I apologize for that. I'm sure that it's me jumping around right now.
Well, here too.
We'll just chalk it up to
it's just we and we're just frozen in that moment.
I think we caught up with each other. All right, I'm excited about talking about this book. It's part of a universe that I love so much.
Me too.
Shadowman.
That's an awesome cover.
Oh gosh, it's so good. I don't kind of flash it because I think it actually has nudity on it. Now that I think about it.
Oh yeah, I guess it does. It's definitely one of the creepiest covers they have for it.
It is. So, Valiant has been around for a nice long time. Had its big heyday in the 90s, and then was brought back up into the top by Dinesh Shambasani in the 2000s, and now it's under DMG, which looks like they're continuing this awesome, bringing up of these characters and keeping them going. And I am so excited to see your take on Shadowman, which comes from, there's basically two kinds of parts of this universe, and this is part of the dead side part of the universe, which has the darker things. It's more tied to things like voodooism, and I just got through reading the book. So excited that I got to read it early. So
yeah, it's been this is a book that's been in the works for a while now, because of the it was supposed to come out a year ago, basically, and because of the pandemic, though, things got delayed. They didn't want to launch a book, when comic shops weren't running as strong as they could. So it got delayed a little bit, but I'm fine. This week, it's kind of hard to believe. Finally, this week, the book will be out, and hopefully, I think people are really going to like it. It's like you said, it's part of Valiant's superhero, or it's part of the superhero universe, but it's definitely the darker, more supernatural side of that universe. It's got a lot more of the magic, a lot more of the monsters. It deals with the dead side, which is this flip side alternate reality where all the dead things go. And we have Shadowman, who is sort of our last line of defense between the two worlds. He stands when things bleed through from the dead side into our world. Shadowman is the guy that punches them back and sends them back into to where they're supposed to be. And even though this character's been around for a while, and this does follow the Valiant, the history of the character. It's not a reboot, but even with that in mind, I wrote this so that a new reader could pick this up and enjoy it without having to know a lot about Shadowman. It's an easy entry point. You read the issue. It's even though there's an overarching story, there are hints at a bigger mystery and a bigger story that's going to unfold, but it's almost a standalone story in that first issue. Mm-hmm. And really, I'm trying as much as possible. The further we get along, it becomes a little more difficult to be complete standalone every story. But every issue is has a beginning, middle, and end, so that you could pick that issue up and enjoy it, whether you've read all the issues, none of the issues, one or two of the issues. I wanted it to be very easy to, with every issue, for someone to pick it up and enjoy it. But yeah, and I wanted it to be something that readers who haven't read Shadowman could still get a kick out of this.
And it's been a while since I've gotten to dive into the universe, because the last run of Shadowman for us sold out so quickly that I didn't get a chance to finish it. So the question I have, this is just as a fan, is the Loa that's in this one, is this Loa been seen before, or is this new original?
So Shadowman's Loa, it's the one he's had for he's always been connected to, at least since the reboot, whatever it was 10 years ago when Valiant was relaunched. But the difference is that at the end of the previous Shadowman series, Shadowman kind of bonded with the Loa in a different way. So that kind of gave me an easy restart, because his powers have changed. He's a little more he's more connected to his to the Loa, but it is the Shadow Loa he's been with from the beginning. It's just sort of they have a new attitude and a new relationship with one another, which makes Shadowman a little more powerful. He's got some powers you haven't seen before if you've been reading Shadowman for years, and he can do some things he hasn't been able to do before.
It's a wonderful universe. I don't know that it says in this issue. Do we know what city they're in?
Well, it starts out in New Orleans, which is where Shadowman's always been. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things this series will do. His stories have always been based in New Orleans. But in this series, the first issue is New Orleans, but then he's traveling all over the world. We're going to see Shadowman in some very different settings for the character. So we're not sticking him in one place. He's doing a little more globe hopping.
The other question is, are we going to see any other Dead Side characters that we're used to?
The answer is yes. Okay. You will. There are some characters that in the first few issues were focused mainly on Shadowman and Baron Samedi, and we're not introducing characters that you might have seen before. As we get into the second arc, you're definitely going to be seeing more characters that you've seen before. Lots of people have asked me if some classic Shadowman villains will show up, and the answer is yes, but maybe not in the way you're expecting.
Ooh, okay. All right, so I follow you like most people do on social media, and I'm just super excited about Jackson's new belt.
Oh yeah, he's
when did he start?
he's been doing it now for I guess it's been a couple of years now, or it's closing in on a couple of years. He's just a kid that when he focuses on things, he puts it all into it. So he's dedicated and determined. So which is the most important thing. Even through the pandemic, he has been he's been sticking to his martial arts regimen, which is cool. I was taking martial arts as well because I thought it was something we could do together at sometimes, even though I was in an adult class and he was in a kids class. I did not stick with it though. when the pandemic hit, I embraced eating junk food and not exercising, and he embraced keeping his regimen going. So
you should be there cheering us on, right? Come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was not someone who could stick with it. I had to. I let it go by the wayside. Maybe I'll get back to it again at some point, but who knows? He's getting old enough now. He'd probably be in the adult class or start going in the adult classes in the next few months. So maybe I'll start doing it when he's doing the adult classes again. But he's so much better at it than me. I don't know if I want to be embarrassed in that way.
When my boys were younger, my youngest took Taekwondo, and so I was already there, and I just felt like I should be doing something other than sitting on the in the chairs just watching. So I started taking classes with him, but I took the kids classes. So when it came to when they did like tournaments and things, I of course can't do tournament things with the kids, but I've been practicing with them. So, of course you're pulling your punches and not falling through with all of your kicks and all those things. But I learned that the teenagers that were in the adult class had learned to not pull any of those things. And so I think my first bout, the first hit I took, I thought that he broke my ribs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny how eager teenagers are to beat up adults. So
like I have permission.
Right. They have the permission to throw those punches. So all right.
Oh goodness. Is there anything else that's coming up that you want to put in people's minds, start thinking about?
Yeah, look, I have a ton of books coming out over the next next several months. Shadowman, Phantom on the Scan from Aftershocks just started up a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be continuing on. It's a 5-issue series. I have a book coming from Aftershock called Eden, which is a one-shot, like 40-something page graphic novel that I think is going to surprise people because it's going to be unlike anything they've read from me. It's sort of a horror romance. It's a horror love story. And it's just gorgeous. It's a gorgeous book. And then in July, I have a issue of Black Hammer Visions is coming out. I think issue 6 is mine. And if you've never read any Black Hammer stuff, you can read this issue. You don't have to worry about having read it. But I write a character called Cthulhu, who's basically like this plumber who is connected to this eldritch force. And then I also in July I have a kids graphic novel coming out from HarperCollins called The Ghoul Next Door, which I'm really excited about. It's a big 200-page graphic novel with Kat Ferris. It's for middle readers, and it's the first in a series. So I'm hoping people will really. It's written for kids, but it's also for creepy adults too.
Did I read somewhere that it's already award-winning, or it's been recommended by libraries, or something that's attached to it already? Yeah,
it's been recommended, from the youth library organizations and things like that. So that's pretty exciting. And yeah, I think it'll be like I said, it's a book that I think adults will enjoy. It's even though it's for kids, because we're introducing an entire, we're really we're introducing a little town, this creepy little town. It has this big history, and there's underground kingdoms full of ghouls. But for a book about creatures that eat dead bodies, it is for kids. So,
oh man, there you go. There's the pitch. You kids that want to watch it, make sure. Want to read it? Make sure you said that Cullen said it was okay.
This is the kids' book for children who want to read about creatures that eat the dead. So.
All right, Cullen. Thank you so much for joining us on the experience. Do you have anywhere that you would like people to follow or interact with you? Sign up for newsletters? Any of those things?
Yeah, you can always go to my website. It's just cullenbunn.com. If you want to interact with me, Twitter is the hands down the best place to do it, at Cullen Bunn. And from either of those places, you can get to my website, my Patreon, the Kickstarters I run, any of that stuff. You can my newsletter. You can find all of that from those places.
All right. Thank you so much, Cullen, for taking time out of your day. This has been a huge help for me. We're going to be right back after this break with Frankee White.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the experience. This is Talking Shop, where we try to get you all hyped up about books that are coming out this week to your local comic shop. One I've been looking forward to for quite a while is 20 Fists, coming out from Source Point Press. We have with us today Frankee White, who's going to tell us all about it. Hey, Frankee, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing great.
Oh, I like your background.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a tropical theme. This is my wife. She set this up, not me.
Beautiful. So, welcome to the experience. We're super happy to have you here.
Thank you.
What if this is not your first work in comic books?
No.
Let's talk about some other cool stuff. It came out on a Wednesday.
What was that? Sorry, I missed that.
It came out on a Wednesday. You had a piece that you got to put in for Alterna Comics.
That I don't know if that actually released on. It came out on a Wednesday. We originally were scheduled to be a part of that back in the day, and we ended up pulling it out beforehand. And the piece grew into a much larger graphic novel that got released via Caliber Comics.
Okay, so that's where it went to. Okay.
Yeah. So Broken Bear. Yes.
This totally puts it together for me in a big way. I was like, I can't find it. Why can't I find it?
Yeah, mystery. Yeah, it was a big mystery. No, yeah, it was supposed to be through them, and then we ended up pulling it out, and it became, instead of a 10-page short, it ended up releasing as a 100-page graphic novel, so much bigger overall. But if you're into dark fantasy, it's...
Tell people a little bit about Broken Bear. What genre should it fit into? What is it like?
Yeah, so Broken Bear is a dark fantasy. It follows the tale of a squire named Selm. And at the very intro of the book, she is presented with a Faustian deal, basically. She gets the chance to get what she most desires, but obviously it comes at a terrible cost. And the goal with that was to paint our hero in a sort of like negative light. So she makes a terrible decision to start the book, and she's going to spend the rest of the book trying to make up for it, basically.
Oh, man. I can see why you couldn't fit that into 10 pages.
Yes, yeah. So the 10 pages originally is basically just the opening sequence, and then it just explodes out from there.
Mm-hmm. So Caliber Press, when did that come out?
It came out, so released last year, 2019. In September. So it's been out for over a year now, which is crazy to think about. But honestly, it was a great first release. That was my first thing that I released like through a publisher and everything. Being able to release a graphic novel and work with the team that I worked with, Adam Markowitz and AHG. They're like partners for life now because of that book. I hope to work with them forever.
Did you do any like self-created work? Did you?
Sorry, hold on one second.
Sure.
Hey, I am so sorry. Hold on 1 second.
Technical difficulties. Oh my goodness, this happens every once in a while. He'll pop back in. Sometimes I have to do that too whenever there's glitches in the system. That's right, this is what live shows are like. Now you know it's an actual live show instead of a live show that we recorded earlier. They were rebroadcasting. That's not true. We're totally alive. So yeah, the book I'm excited to talk about is the Source Point Press one that's coming up. But I did not know about this other one, so I'm going to totally put it on my list of things to go and hunt down and read because it sounds awesome. Oh my goodness. Let's see. There's so many cool things that are coming out this week in comic shops that you guys should pay attention to, including, hey, don't beat them up. There is this 8th print of Something is Killing the Children #1 that's going to pop up. Just know that there's a crazy gauntlet of things that you need to do to be able to get those. And don't be mean to your local comic shop because they also have to do the gauntlet of things. The gauntlet of things are, you have to have a little sheet of paper that came in the foil edition of Berserker #1 that says you have to have this piece of paper, and you have to have purchased a #1 from the local comic shop you're going to pick it up for, and you're supposed to be picking up a Berserker #2. So if you've done all of those gauntlet of things then, and get there before they run out of them, they will have this 8th print for you, and the 8th print is for freebie. So it doesn't cost you anything. You just have to do the gauntlet of Berserker. But see, you're making Keanu Reeves happy, so why wouldn't you do those things? Just think of it as a giant, like a search and find, in which you have to fill all of those things together to get the things that you want. Is everyone super excited to read Berserker #2? Because my mind is blown by the idea that is presented in #1. That we're just going to call him, I mean, I'm sure this guy has a name, and I know what it is, but I just call him Keanu. Because he's already going to play them in the movie and in the anime that's going to happen afterwards. So we can't call him that, I guess. But the idea that he's completely immortal and doesn't really know when his immortalness started.
I mean, isn't that like already like a conspiracy theory that Keanu Reeves is immortal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it fits in. I wonder if he thought this through, because he did co-write the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that was presented. It's like, how can I tell a tale in which I am myself. You know what I mean? I am myself, and I get to do the things the way that I normally do them. What else is coming out this week, Hannah? You just got through looking through the list.
No, Jenna did.
Jenna got to what?
Yeah.
Well, we know Shadowman for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely the Shadowman. Actually, like I said, I have one that has this is a variant cover for someone else's shop, but there's a gorgeous cover of Shadowman coming out of a belly mouth, which is terrifying. Who thinks these things up? Honestly, who thinks this stuff up? So yeah, we've got. I think that they were saying that there's like a bajillion books back there to process this week, so I'm excited about reading them all. I don't know if you guys know this, but I also have a review show that I do on Tuesdays with Hannah, who is behind the camera over there.
Yep.
Called Minute to Skim It. We've been doing it for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Probably at least 6. I keep on getting memory things from.
I've been doing it for 5.
I've been doing it 5, so at least 6. We've been doing it for 5 together.
Yeah.
Hannah is very important. We also have a co-host every once in a while called Purpur, but that's only if we shoot this show at my house.
Which we haven't in how many years now?
Oh, that's my cat. Not that you couldn't tell that with a name like Purpur that was my cat's name. But it didn't matter what we were doing. We'd be in the middle of the review, and he somehow always figured out how to put his booty to the camera. So I guess his butt is famous as being a reviewer. But he doesn't actually do anything helpful except for walk on the books. So don't worry about that. But on Tuesdays, we do have a live review show that we put on. It's about an hour. And we try to be faster, but we never are, ever. We're horribly not fast. But they're also very not spoilery. So we're not going to tell you any of the spoilers, but it will give you a good idea of what is coming onto the books. And gives you just enough heads up on Tuesday night to be able to go and get in contact with your local comic shop. If you don't have a local comic shop, it's really easy to find one. Even if you're traveling, you just need to go to comicshoplocator.com and put in your zip code where you are, and it will pop up all of the options for your area. And right now, because of COVID, I would also call ahead and make sure that the information that's there is consistent. You don't happen to have a way to give me the invoice, do you?
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, good. Hannah's going to tell me some things that are coming out. That's what she's doing. She's doing the woo.
Yeah. So crossover number 6.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some new number 1s. We've got I just had it. Oh, Helm Grey Castle number 1.
Ooh, looking forward to Helm Grey Castle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Me too. My Little Pony Transformers 2 number 1. So this is the second series.
Okay, so I know what you guys are thinking when she says My Little Pony Transformers Series 2. I know you're thinking that seems ridiculous, but they would not have a second series of something that did not do well. It did very well. As a matter of fact, the number 1 of the first series, I had to eat crow because I was like, this is going to be dumb. How in the world are they going to put these 2 things together and make them make sense? But they totally did.
It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. I can't wait to read it the second. Let's see. If you missed Shavecraft number 1, second prints released this week.
Oh, yes. Shavecraft was a big sellout. That's an image book.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to have a chance at second prints this week.
And the second issue also drops.
Oh, so there you can go. You can get your number
So
1 and number 2.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Shadowman. Let's see. Witchblood number 2, which is going to be awesome.
Witchblood number 2. Wow.
Yeah, from Vault.
Yeah.
Yep. If y'all are following Vault, you know how awesome all their books have been. Let's see. We've got Alien number 1, second prints, finally coming out. So if you missed the first issue.
Okay, so Alien is one of those series that it's interesting what's going on. So you have Marvel picking up Alien and they've picked up Predator. And something weird happened. Here's breaking news. They had slated a whole bunch of regular comic books, Captain America and those guys, with Predator variants, which they did for Alien. And for some reason, all of those got pulled this week very weirdly. So if you were hoping for the Predator,
also Predator itself is.
All of Predator got pulled. Okay, well, there are disputes on who has the license for this, obviously. So if you were hoping for Predator from Marvel, it will be one of those things where it's like, hold please. Hold please. We'll figure out that has this ever happened before where there's been an actual announcement of a launch and numbers inbound and then they'll be like,
oh yeah. It happened with a bunch of the Archie stuff last year because of COVID. Yep. All of the stuff that I was looking forward to.
Yeah. That's a bad thing when those kinds of things happen.
Yeah. Ooh, Department of Truth is this week as well.
So we get both crossover and Department of Truth in the same week, which will blow my mind, of course.
Of course. We've got a couple different Zenoscope one-shots.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Frankie's back. Hey, Frankee.
Am I back in?
Yeah, you're totally back in.
All right. Sorry about that. My dogs got into something they should not have gotten into.
That's important to not have your dog get sick from getting into things that they shouldn't, or get in really big trouble for destroying something they should not be touching.
The life of a dog parent.
What kind of doggies do you have?
I have two dogs. They're both Shepherd mixes. One is a Shepherd mix, and we don't know what the mix is. And the other one is a German Shepherd and a Pug mix.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. That's what everybody we've talked to about it, like, we don't know how it happened, but it happened.
They get a little determined. I've seen some other weird mixes too. You're like, well, that seems impossible. Like Chihuahua Great Dane things. You're like, no.
I don't want to know how it happened. We got him at a shelter.
All right. So tell us about 20 Fists. How did you come up with the idea?
So 20 Fists was born from my love of the movie The Warriors. Which is one of my favorite movies ever. I saw it at probably way too young of an age, and it impacted me. So my goal was to do something that was in the vein of like a street fight, gangs run a city sort of thing, but with a little bit of a twist. So it was gangs running, it was like an illegal fist fight league, basically. So instead of like the Warriors where they're all actual gangs, it's sort of this like underground structured fist fight league where you have a team of people and you go out and you just do like fist fights and you have a scorecard. So when they fight, when you knock someone out, an X appears over their name like on the scorecard and everything. So that was like what I was hoping to do with it, and mix in different genres. Originally it was going to be a Western mix in there. But when I was writing the script to start, I didn't give any of the characters any names or physical descriptors. I wrote them just their dialogue and what they were going to be doing in the scenes, and then I gave it to the artist Kat Bauman, and I said, draw them how you picture them in your head based on like how what they're saying, what they're doing, how do you visualize them. And when she drew all the characters out, it totally changed how I was going to like approach the rest of the book, basically. So instead of a Western, it switched to a romance. So it's the back of the book for the Kickstarter copy says, this is a comic about fist fights and bad romance. And that's the shortest pitch I could make for it.
There's a killer video trailer that we've been running on the Experience for a while. Mm-hmm. That if you watch that trailer and it doesn't appeal to you, then it probably is just not your thing at all, because it looks amazing.
That trailer is super, super good. I was really surprised when I saw it.
You were like, I'd buy that book and read it.
Yeah, right. I was like, well, maybe I'll buy one anyways. Gotta bump my numbers.
So what was the most surprising about the characters and the way that they were portrayed? Did you like any mind-blowing things that happened with characters for you?
In terms of like when I wrote them down to getting in the art, it was just seeing the differences, because I'm sure anybody that's writing, when you're writing, you have an idea of what the character looks like in your head, before you even write down their descriptions for the artist. So I had ideas for what I thought all the characters were gonna look like, even though they weren't named or given descriptors. So just seeing what came out, which was like not 100% lined up with my own head. And that's the beauty of like collaborating on comics is, you know, getting someone else's opinion. You know, if it was just me, the book wouldn't have been nearly as good as it ended up being. So that's probably like the most surprising part, just seeing how different and how like on point some of them were. Like some of them I saw it and I was like, that's amazing. Like you pulled that straight out of my brain. Like I didn't even give you anything.
Okay, so obviously there's some kind of organization to be able to getting the fist fights together, because it looks like there's scorecards, so that's great. But is it like a formal kind of thing that everybody knows about, or is it informal, a la Fight Club, in which no one's supposed to know about it? They just pop up, you know, in back alleys.
Right. So I would say it's a mix of the two. We don't go into heavy detail about like the organization that's running it all. It's just sort of spoken about via the two crews that are fighting. But fights can take place pretty much anywhere except for like designated like neutral zones. So it's not like Fight Club in the sense where everyone has to go underground and meet. Like fights happen, you know, at a playground. Fights happen at like an amusement park. Fights happen like they're at a park, and there's a scene in one of the later issues. They're at a park and the two main characters are talking. And while they're talking, they see another fight happening where like they're chasing this guy down and they grab him and they throw him into a pond. Like, so like it can happen anywhere at any time, but at the same time, it's still, you know, I would say, even though it's not said in the book, not condoned by the city it's taking place in. It's still an illegal fist fight league.
Is there any kind of like social media like part of it that people, you know, like that there's followers that want to show up and record the thing?
So it's funny that you say that. So that is actually, if fingers crossed, this does really well and I get to do any sort of follow-up, that's how the next part is going to start, is with the social media sort of like video of what's happening. But the people do have fans. There is a moment in one of the fights where people show up to watch them and they're cheering them on, and one of the characters is taken aback by it because they're new to it all and they're like, what the hell, like why are you here?
Why do you even know what's going on?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Do they get like in wrestling or those kinds of things, do they get like, you know, like stage names, or are they just like, you know?
No, so it's all everybody. Yeah, everybody's just themselves, and that's where the friction comes in, because at least with this take on the miniseries, it's two crews, and the crews are, even though they're enemies, they have history together. So the two like leaders of the crew, Billy and Shell, they're dating, or they're going through a breakup. So like they're tied together. Some of the people in crews have been friends with other people before they were in crews, and now they're fist fighting each other. So it's a little bit of, you're carrying all of your baggage with you into the fist fight. So you have physical and emotional violence at like the same time.
So it's not like a professional sport where like after you get off, you know, like your MMA, someone just like totally, you know, like choked you out, you lost consciousness, you get up and you're like, yeah, dude, bro, my best friend.
Yeah, good game. No, they're gonna, if you get your ass beat in one of these fights, you're gonna carry it with you into the next one, and you're gonna hold a grudge.
There's beef. I like that. Okay, so in my mind, okay, go with me here. Because of the way you mentioned your inspiration, I totally envision a musical version of this.
So that was my other take, was because when I was trying to like come up with the quick pitch, right? You either think, when you think of street crews fighting, you either go Warriors or you go West Side Story, and that you know. So in a world, if I was given an unlimited budget to make like a 20 Fists movie, yeah, there'd probably be some song and dance numbers.
Yes. Score.
Like a punk rock musical or something.
Oh yeah. So do you have anything else planned coming down the pike?
So right now the biggest things are 25th release on Wednesday, and there's 3 issues for that, so that'll be April, May, and June. I also have another book that's releasing. I think pre-orders are up April 28th, so also this Wednesday, for a new book called Starless Daydream, and that is a mech narrative zine. That's what I'm calling it. That's not like a real term or anything, but I basically got like 30 plus artists together to help me tell the finale to a mech anime that like never existed. So every artist gets like a page or two, you know, and it's either sequentials or pin up, double page splash. There's like text pages that like fill in background detail and stuff like that. And that is dropping. I think it'll start shipping out at the end of April.
And who's that through?
That's through Dauntless Stories. They're like brand new. So you can find them on Twitter, or their website's dauntlessstories.com. They have Starless Daydream and then another book, and then they have like a cool green light system where they let you know what's coming up, and you can like buy it in advance, like a pre-order, but it allows you to see like making of stuff. So in some ways it's like their own take on their own Kickstarter, which is kind of neat. You get like an in-depth look at everything that's going on as it's happening.
That sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the name of it one more time. Endless?
So the book is Starless Daydream.
Starless Daydream.
Yeah, and the publisher is Dauntless Stories.
Dauntless Stories. Okay. I can remember Dauntless. Well, I've said it 3 times.
right. Sometimes even then I can't remember that stuff.
It's going to be hard for me to remember. Except for I've got a friend on the other side there is going to like make sure to write it down so I go and find it. There's so much right now like that. For retailers, the difficulty level's gone way up because we went from having one distributor,
right,
which was great for lots of years, but now there's lots of ways to get books that are different than that, and it's just a matter of finding time in our days to like to hunt them down and lock them down.
Go through all their catalogs and order everything. Yeah, that I can't imagine that's easy. That would take so much time.
I actually do way better.
Who's with everybody? Because right, I assume most people are shipping out through different. Not everyone's used. They're all using different, distributors now. It's not. Yeah.
I do way better. Actually, just communicating with creators now.
Straight, yeah, right. Honestly, that like I feel like there's been like a huge Kickstarter and Indiegogo boom, and that's made it so much easier for creators just to reach out directly to shops and just be like, "Hey, I've got this going on." It's a new era.
Yeah, it's probably if you had asked me 3 years ago if Kickstarters would make sense for retailers and be like a real way to do things, I would have been like, I don't know about that. Now I totally get it.
Yeah, I mean,
easy enough to add another level for us.
Right, exactly. You just add a tier in that has a good deal, and and then you're good to go.
Frankee, where would everyone follow you on social media? Where do you like to interact with folks?
The best place is Twitter. You can find me at Frankee, and that's Frankee with 2 E's _white. I'm on there probably way too much, to be quite honest. So that's the best place to find me. I also have an Instagram, and it's the same thing, but instead of an underscore, it's a period, Frankee _white. But that I hardly post any comic stuff because I'm a writer. It's a little bit harder to do that. So it's mostly just pictures of my dogs and stuff like that.
So before we came on, I have a social media person because I don't have enough time to do all of the posts. So she was standing over here and she was like going, "Oh my gosh, the doggies."
Yeah, that's basically all my Instagram posts is like pictures of my dogs. And like if I'm lucky to have new art coming in and I can share it in advance, like that's it. That's all it is.
So there you go, everyone. You need to totally follow Frankee White on all the socials so you can get your doggy fixes. Because there's nothing ever going to be bad about getting doggies pictures.
Definitely not.
Jennifer's making comments right now. Cutest puppers.
I'll let them know.
Anything else you want to shout out in the last couple seconds here?
Not off the top of my head. Go by 25th, please. Fingers crossed, so we can. I'd love to get everyone's opinions. If you do buy it, hit me up on Twitter and let me know what you think about it, because that's like the whole reason we make them. I don't want to have them come out in stores and then not hear anything about it. So if you read it, please let me know your thoughts.
Well, the only reason it wouldn't be reviewed tomorrow on Minute to Skim It is if, because I'm on a new program with Source Point Press in which I get my books directly from them. So the only reason I wouldn't be able to review it is if that didn't come in yet. But I will try to find a way to get that review on for you so that everyone can get a kind of like a little, like a opinion piece, heads up about what it's about, even though I can't imagine it. I can't imagine anyone being like, nah, that doesn't sound like fun. People punching each other in the face.
if you like fist fights, if you like romance, if you like adventure and action, I tried to cover as many genre bases as I could in it.
I am so excited to read it. Thank you so much, Frankee, for being willing to come on and hang out with us here on The Experience. Hey, everybody, do not leave. Do not run away. Don't go anywhere, because coming up next, it's time for Mishmash.